Hi, everybody. Welcome to this on 49ers on Niners Radio. We have our special guest online. He is a writer, beat guy for the Arizona Cardinals for the Big Sky Sports podcast. Big Sky Sports. You can check him out on Facebook. And we're going to welcome him back again. David Murphy, who covers the team. This is a matchup of two teams are in total opposite directions. In fact, it's the bad and the good, or I should say the great Clint Eastwood movie, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll start off with the bad and the ugly, vice versa. The Cardinals are 4-2, losers of 7 in a row and 9 of their last 10. And they right now sit in the basement right there with the Rams in the NFC West. And, what a free fall for the Cardinals since last year. After starting 8-0, they have now lost 17 of their last 22 games. There's been injuries, controversies, assistant coach getting fired for allegations of sexual assault or sexual misconduct. And injuries and coaches getting fired because of or resigned because of it's just been ugly really since the start of training camp. I watched a little bit of the Hard Knocks episode of the Cardinals, the previous game. We got my man David Murphy on Big Sky. How you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, my friend. It's not happy, as you said, if you're a Cardinals fan right now, but maybe it can get to that point someday. Soon.
Well, it's not been a good New Year for you. It's been a good New Year for me. Before we we're gonna I like to do the bad news first, start off with the Cardinals, how they've gotten to this point before we start with the 49ers, because I like to save the best for last though. So let's it's been pretty bad, Dave. 4-12 right now. They're dead last. The Rams, with their ugly whomping of the Broncos on Christmas Day, moves who are still technically the defending reigning Super Bowl champs. They will not be repeating or make the playoffs with a chance even close to defend their crown. Leapfrog ahead of the Cardinals for third place in the NFC West.
Yeah, it's no good. And not only that, it's just they haven't won a home game since like October of 2021. So
really,
yeah, they haven't won a home game even longer than that. I think, I don't know if I have my information correct. I'd have to really dig a little bit deeper, but I do listen to other different shows and read other different articles, as you should, to gather, more information. But I think it's October and November since 21, since they won a home game. And
that's bad. That's bad. So they're
really bad.
So they end up going 0-9 at home this year, if I'm correct, right? Because they had the extra home game to the schedule because of the 18 weeks of the schedule.
Yeah, last year they had the extra road game. This year they have the extra home game, even though it was a neutral site, which we both know and talk about in Mexico City. But it counts for them as a home game.
Home
so
team,
yeah,
that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So they hadn't won a single home.
No, go ahead.
Yes, they have not won a single home game. You can include the Monday night game in Mexico City, where you guys technically were the hosts. We're the host team. Wow.
Yep. Yeah, I think they haven't won a single home game this season. I'll go back and look at it. 21-44 at State Farm Stadium. That was a loss against the Chiefs. State Farm Stadium again. 12-20 against the Rams. So that's 0-2 at home. A 3-point loss to the Philadelphia Eagles at home. 20-17. State Farm Stadium. They did. Okay, sorry. They have won one. So they won one on Thursday night at State Farm Stadium, 42-34 against the Saints. So that's 1-2.
Right.
Yeah. Seahawks, they lost. That's 1-3. Um,
1-8
let's see. Los Angeles Chargers, they won.
loss.
They lost, so that's 1-4 at home. 1-5 against the Patriots, and lost against the Buccaneers. So, yeah, 1-6 at home this season. So, yeah.
1-6 at home, and then going back to last year, they really faded, and so
Yeah.
this just a tale of two. I mean, let's get to what all ever from the controversy off season to that long term contract for Kyler Murray. He's out for the rest of the year with the torn ACL. Mostly could be missing some significant time. Miss some time to start the new fall season next September, and he's going to miss some significant time. Miss just about all the OTAs and the training camp. May have to start the new season on the PUP, physically unable to perform list, that which you're on there for at least 6 to 8 weeks, and then if it does not if it's no improvement, either they're going to activate him on the 53-man roster, or worst case end up going on IR for at least for he left us out for at least a minimum of 4 games, and if it doesn't get any better than that, worst case scenario, he would have to sit out. It could go from that designation 4 weeks to return to season-ending IR, which will keep him out for the entire 2023 season at the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Right now, I think even at best, he would be back October. But and I'm a rip him a little bit. I'm a rip Kyler a little bit. So he's just not one to come back until he is 100%. Now, obviously, you have your normal nicks and bruises. Well, he won't have no nicks and bruises, but he won't come back until he feels like he can, as him and Cliff says, let it go. Let it go, being running. What he does, even though he says, "I want to be a pocket passing quarterback." It's all about being able to take off and let it go. And so if he doesn't, even if the doctors say, "Hey, you're good to go," such and such October, he might not come back until sometime in November if we're lucky.
And then and then that's another thing. There's a lot of uncertainty with the Cardinals. I mean, because Cliff Kingsbury, I should call him Cliff Pillsbury, or the Doughboy, or speculations. This could be it for him on Sunday. Because he had just recently signed that 3-year contract extension, and that has been nothing but have gone just. I mean, then reading some of the comments by Cardinals owner, general partner, I'm gonna pull this. I want to pull this up, though. I definitely want to pull this up by Michael Bidwell. I want to pull this up by what Michael Bidwell has said, and we're gonna I'm gonna. So, and it was not good at all. This is by our good friends from Arizona Sports, and let me just pull this up. I'm gonna start trying to find that piece up. That it was some very harsh things he said. But he's ripped one of the players for not giving it its all. When you have an owner like that doing that, saying remarks like that, that is absolutely not good.
Yeah, no, he. I know specifically in Hard Knocks, he said basically the eye in the sky doesn't lie. He just said, "I don't want to see anybody loafing." I don't remember exactly, but I know it was on Hard Knocks, and he addressed the team after Steve Keim had been relieved of his duties via medical reasons. We'll see how that even goes, but he said, basically charge the team. Let's give it our all. And I don't want to see anybody loafing. I don't want to see anybody take any plays off. Which if he's saying that, it almost goes without saying that he's already seen that. So he's like, I don't want to see that anymore. So it was very eye opening. From that Hard Knocks episode. It was about I think 2 episodes ago, maybe 3. But I know he had said that recently.
And then what's going to happen with what's going to be the what's going to end up happening with with that situation with the former offensive assistant who was fired with the allegations he groped on a fan before they were going to the stadium. He's saying he's got his own. Everybody has his own opinion, own side of the story. So he's going to get his say.
Yeah. I don't know what Sean Kugler is saying. He was the offensive running game coordinator and offensive line coach.
Right.
And he said, quote, mistaken identity. So he believes that, whoever saw him do whatever they're saying he did, he's like, that wasn't me. Maybe you got the wrong guy. Almost saying, maybe the wrong guy might have been Steve Keim. And so if you look at a side-by-side photo of Sean Kugler and Steve Keim, maybe to an average eye that wouldn't know the difference, well, they kind of look the same. They're both bigger dudes. They both played offensive line. They're both bald, and they're both white men, and so it's like you have some similarities. And so that's kind of the last thing I had seen and talked about myself is that he believes that it's possible mistaken identity, basically saying it wasn't me, someone else, might have been Steve. Not really him saying that per se, from what I gathered, but that's kind of what I was getting at, or what he was getting at per se. So. But Cardinals said they were probably going to, more than likely, that's not true, and then they were going to let him go anyway. So, and they never said why anyway they would let him go. Probably performance, I don't know. But it was interesting also on.
Well, that's something that's going to be.
Oh, go ahead.
Uh-oh. We got you.
Yeah, I'm here.
We got you. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then we're talking with David Murphy, who's the who hosts Arizona Cardinals football on the Big Sky Sports Network. He does daily podcast shows of the Arizona Cardinals but I was just reading something about what Michael Bidwell has stated that he is, and he said in his own words, he on HBO's Hard Knocks said, I am blanking disappointed. Everybody else in this room, he told the players, I can see who's really doing it. I can also see where people sometimes cutting corners. The message all last week was giving their best effort. And now with 2 games left, this was an article from last week from Cardinals Wire USA Today.com. I'm going to try to get with somebody. We could talk about the state of the Cardinals, the team's effort, which will be retained for next season. So one way or the other, there's going to be a lot of changes for the Cardinals next year. Does Adrian Wilson, who's in the front office, the former Cardinals safety, will you think he'll be retained, or he'll be be in a role of being an assistant, be a general manager to the head coach, who will have full authority?
I don't know. Now, if it's up to Michael Bidwell, I would say yes. Both, Michael has a great relationship with Adrian Wilson and Quentin Harris. Both are in the front office. Both are acting as GM right now. That's the term they always use, acting GM. So,
And who was the other one? Quentin who?
Quentin Harris. Quentin Harris. They call him Q around the building, A-Dub and Q. But they've both been in the organization for a while as scouts, area scouts, and then kind of moved up the ranks in player development and stuff like that. Definitely paid their dues. Definitely worth keeping around. I would imagine that they would both get a fair shot if Michael has anything to say about it, and if he cleans house, officially lets Steve Keim go, officially lets Cliff Kingsbury go, then yes, I foresee him definitely sticking around for sure. I don't know why he would be gone at all, but we'll see how that goes. But I see them sticking around, and I don't know if either one of them will be the GM or not. I think I told you off the air that my preference would be that they go after Sean Payton and make Sean Payton the vice president of football operations, basically either being A-Dub or Q's boss. They're the GM, but he's the vice president of operations, so he would be their boss. They would handle, some of the GM duties, but, he's the boss. It all goes through him technically. And that would be my preference, that he's the vice president and the head coach. So, and I think he would do very, very well there.
Well, I think you look in perspective as a long-time 49er fan and a podcaster, the similar fate with when Bill Walsh took over the Niners in 1979, his right-hand man was the late John McVay. Of course, he is the grandfather of his grandson, of course, Sean McVay, coaches the Rams. And Sean McVay, when he was a little kid, grew up in the 49er organization when his grandfather was running the general manager's role. He was Bill Walsh or Eddie DeBartolo's right-hand man. He was the guy that signed the contracts and hammer out deals. And then he was the guy that, really Bill Walsh and Eddie DeBartolo at times had some clashes. And really it was John McVay kept that thing together. And he was the guy that, remember, he came to the 49ers in 1979 after he coached the New York Giants, and it was a game back in 1978. If you ever look on NFL films, it was the that blunder play where the New York Giants led. They end up leading by 4. They had the ball. The Philadelphia Eagles, the Giants were getting ready to run out the clock. The Eagles had no timeouts left, so all the Giants got to do, take a snap or two, kneel downs, and victory formation. That was a wrap. Eagles had no timeouts. Then they called for that play where Joe Pisarcik handled the ball. The ball fumbled it as you're going to give it to Larry Zonka. The ball popped out of Joe Pisarcik's hands, and Herman Edwards takes it back for a touchdown, a game that the Eagles absolutely had no business winning. And McVay was their head coach at that time. He ended up getting fired after the 78 season, ended up going out to San Francisco. The general manager of the Giants, George Young, the late George Young, who was the architect of the Giants' 2 Super Bowl wins in back in 86 and again in 90, but for McVay, he ended up going out and helped build a dynasty with Bill Walsh for the 49ers. So I think what the point is, I think if Peyton does come to the Cardinals, I think he's going to have full personnel slate who comes and goes.
Yeah. I mean that's definitely one way that you should go, and definitely one way that you can entice him. Sean Payton's going to want the financial aspect. Everybody knows that, and he's going to want personnel power and say. So if you're a team that can offer that, say there's other teams that may want to go after Sean Payton, but they want to keep their GM that's going to have personnel power and say, if you're the Arizona Cardinals, that's what one leg you have up. Now the question is, if you're Michael Bidwill, are you willing to compete anymore? We've seen you do it in the past. Are you willing to actually do it? And if you are, then Sean Payton's the way to go. It's going to cost a lot of money. Everybody knows that. It's easier for me to say it's not my money, but
right.
Pony up the dough and do it. If you want to win, do it. You fired guys in the past. You hired guys in the past. You know how to do that. We get it, and it's been successful in the past. It's time to turn over a new leaf. Years ago, when they let's see, I can't remember who they let go as a head coach. Gosh, it will hit me. But you know, the reason why they fired him, and I can't remember his name right now, but you see a lot of the same things happening, you know, with Cliff Kingsbury and gosh, I cannot remember his name. If I Googled it and cheated and look it up, I probably could. But he was there for he was our head coach for the Super Bowl, the only one that we were in. And I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it was Kurt Warner. It was Ken Wisenhunt.
Yeah, Ken Wisenhunt. Yeah, he let go of Ken Wisenhunt and made the change and to Bruce Arians, and you know after Ken Wisenhunt, and you know so. A lot of the parallel similarities are there as far as, you know, how things are going. You know, Michael felt like that the division was slipping away from them a little bit, you know, that the Niners, the Seahawks, and the Rams were all going a little bit further and willing to do a little bit more to win than the Cardinals at the time. And so he's like, all right, time to go, you know, get rid of Wisenhunt. Yeah,
I remember very well because I was at that. I think it was the last game of that regular season. It was the regular season finale of the Cardinals and the Niners 10 years ago. The Niners needed that win to lock up the number 2 seed in the first round bye. That's not happening no more because they had the extra game and only one team's going to come out of there with a bye. But they ended up beating the Cardinals, and Wisenhunt was fired right after that game. But you know, they had some success with, you know, when Kurt Warner made his comeback. You had the go-to guys of Larry Fitzgerald, who will be in the Hall of Fame someday, and I think Anquan Bolden, he's going to be on that in that discussion as well. Which, by the way, I do have an Anquan Bolden 49ers jersey in my basement, and I'm wondering, should I wear that jersey on Sunday? If you give me the blessing, the Anquan Bolden jersey.
He played just as well for you guys as he did for us. Maybe even better. I'm not entirely sure. You can always weigh it out a little bit, but you know, go right ahead, my friend. That's one thing that they definitely one of those things that they messed up is just kind of not making it work with Anquan. You know,
what was the problem with that?
I don't remember. I would assume much younger than you are. Not much younger, but I'm 33. So my memory was a little hazy. I was like I was in middle school, probably going into high school when all that went down. I remember, 2008 was that Super Bowl and all that stuff. And I was just going into high school. So I was pretty young, wasn't quite into sports like I am now. I liked it, but not enough to talk about it.
I'm
like
46, I do. Man.
Yeah.
I just turned 40.
You got,
I just turned 46.
13 years on me. Yeah, you got 13 years on me. So, my memory was a little hazy, but I think, I think it was just they weren't willing to pay him. And he's like, all right, fine. I'll go somewhere else that's willing. It was basically like, it was either Larry or Anquan, and they stuck with Larry, which is I'm great with. It was basically.
I can't argue that. I can't take away from that. His father, he was a big.
I wish they would have kept both.
Yeah, I mean, Larry Williams and Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden, they were to their wide receiver tandem. They were to the Cardinals what Jerry Rice and John Taylor was to the 49ers during their
Yep.
heyday in the Super Bowl during the
Yep.
80s and the 90s. That was how
Mm-hmm.
good that two wide receiver tandem was. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember watching Super Bowl. It was 43 when the Cardinals playing the Steelers. You remember when Kurt Warner threw that tightrope skinny that post pattern pass
Mm-hmm.
to Larry Fitzgerald. That's almost like a Joe Montana, the Jerry Rice
Yeah.
catch the yak after
Mm-hmm.
yards of that. That was and I'm looking at some of the numbers what Bolden did. In 2005, he missed time with an injury. Bolden caught 100 passes for 1,400 yards, and that was probably his finest moment with the Cardinals. And he ended up. I'm looking at some of the numbers. He ended up
Mm-hmm.
1,400 yards, and he ended up with 100. So he averaged 14 yards per catch. And then him and Fitzgerald were the third duo team to catch over 100 receptions and top the 1,400-yard mark. They joined Detroit Lions, Herman Moore and Brett Perryman, who accomplished that feat back in '95. And then, of course, Ed McCaffrey, the dad of CMC, Christian McCaffrey, and Rod Smith both did that back in 2000 when Kyle Shanahan's dad, father, Mike Shanahan, was the head coach for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That sounds about right, my friend. Yeah, I think the biggest reason is that they just couldn't make it work financially, or didn't want to make it work financially. Let's go and say that. Michael's dad, Bill Bidwell, was a little bit more involved and a little bit less aggressive as an owner than Michael has been. I think if Michael was more involved, then he probably would have made it work. But yeah, I think that kind of alienated him, and so he's like, all right, off to Baltimore I go. So,
and that's where he won a Super Bowl ring with the Baltimore Ravens, and then he there's some of his numbers he had in 2012. And then he was ended up trading to the 49ers for a 6th-round pick in the 2013 draft, and he had some pretty good games with the 49ers. He had 208 all total yards,
mm-hmm.
and he had 13 receptions. He was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. He ended up on 2015, surpassed 13,000 career yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had 5 balls for 37 yards in that win against the Bears. Then he signed with Detroit, and then he just retired. But actually signed a 1-year contract with Buffalo, and then he just retired. And
mm-hmm.
but I think it was he had some great years great years with the Ravens and with the Cardinals, and they were a great wide receiver pass catching duo.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, I would love to have him a little bit longer, and it just didn't work out.
Now, what's the status for DeAndre Hopkins? Another casualty will start the season. He's not going to play this Sunday, I guess. And how about and then for Colt McCoy, he's going to be able to give it a go on Sunday.
No, they're going to finish up with David Blau, just as I thought they would. I have a feeling that, even if he was good, that they would have went with David Blau. I think the last couple of weeks, maybe not intentionally, but because of injury, basically forced themselves to, all right, we've seen what we've had in Colt McCoy. We either like him or don't. We'll see if he retires. Maybe they'll retain him, maybe they won't. But they like Colt in the quarterback room. They like what he has to offer. So I think that if he wants to, he'll be back. They've seen what they had in Trace McSorley, couple of good games, couple of sparks. I think they were really curious to see what they could have, or what's going on with this new guy from Purdue, David Blau. He started last week, and they're going to give him the start again this week, just to kind of see what you have. And right now, if you're the Cardinals and the Cardinals players, you're just trying to put wins on tape, whether you want to return with this team or you're going to be somewhere else. Whether you're going to retire like J.J. Watt or you want to move on, you're trying to put wins on tape. And I think for the Cardinals, they're like, what do we have in David Blau, or what could we have in David Blau? Let's go ahead and use these last two games to see what we could, if we want to keep him, what we want to do with Trace, what we want to do with Colt going forward.
Well, then that's the thing right now, because of your thoughts on J.J. Watt. This will be his final game. I'll be back out there taping my show for Myers Rail, and there's going to be some rain in the forecast here up in the Bay Area this weekend. We've been getting our share of rain up here in the Northern California. And it's going to be something. Your thoughts on J.J. Watt? I got a chance to watch the Bucks Cardinal game on Christmas night, and him with his wife and his little daughter, the little duckling. You could probably see this I have a feeling maybe this is going to be it for J.J. Watt.
Yeah, he's a guy that that he's always wanted to do it his way. I do think there is a possibility that he would have gave it at least one more year if the Cardinals were going in a better direction. If he felt like they were going in a better direction, he might have. Now, that's just a small possibility. He had the health scare earlier with the heart out of rhythm that had to be shocked back in rhythm, and we don't, he's like, I don't know if it could happen again. He was told it could happen again. He just had his son, Koa. That's another big thing.
His son, correction.
So he just had, he has two big reasons, to hang him up. He said he felt like this last week, he said he felt like he's going, he was asked, well, you're playing so well, you got so much left in the tank, clearly, you got kind of going on top a little bit, so he's like, I want to do it my way. I think the other thing that really, really hurt the Cardinals is that someone in that building leaked that news about his heart. It wasn't supposed to be leaked. Woo. Yeah. And so I think, I feel like it might have even have been Steve. I really do. He had, there's not many other people that would have known. He does, JJ does things his way. He's always done that. He announced when he was coming to the Cardinals his way. Posted a picture working out in a Cardinals shirt. Kept that secret. No one knew that that's what he was going to do. He's the one that broke that news. He's the one that broke his retirement. I'm sure he would have liked to break the news about his heart, and someone else did it for him, and I think that alienated him a little bit. So those three things, his son, the heart scare, and the fact that he was already been alienated because of the heart scare news coming out, is like, you know what? If I'm going to retire, I might as well go ahead and retire now. And if I'm going to play, it's probably not going to be for this Cardinals team anyway, because of those three, because of that one lone reason of the news coming out. So, he's, like I said, he's a man that does things in a way, a surefire Hall of Fame, first ballot, no doubt.
Yeah, he's going to have his bus in Canton someday. But speaking of that, before we start go with the Niners, the other side, your thoughts of that horrible incident on Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills and Bengals, two teams battling for a potential number 2 spot in the AFC. It was, that was such a frightening thing, very, very frightening, disturbing thing what happened on Monday night. Your thoughts of that kid Hamlin? Where our thoughts and prayers go that he makes it through, because and I think I really commend the National Football League, the NFL, of ceasing that game, not continuing, and I don't think that the game should not be played because this was more when it comes to something serious like this outside of the Niners. The Niners battling for that number 2 spot, possibly the number 1 spot if the Eagles lose to the Giants on Sunday, coupled with one Niners win. Um, all that, including that, it's all secondary because the concern is the health and well-being of that kid. You know,
Yeah.
and that's the
Yeah.
most.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and I look back at perspective because I remember I was going to wanted to play football for my senior year in high school. That spring of '94, I was a junior, of course. I was going to play tight, wanted to play tight end because I was a pretty good catch balls, but I'm glad that the head coach told me, I can't do it though because he was looking after me, and I think I would rather be a support staff manager on the team than to be out there because the magnitude of football is very serious, not only with the concussions, but something like this bizarre thing that rarely happens where he gets up. And I saw the video when he collapsed back down. I just said, I'm glad I stuck with baseball. That's where I should have been focusing on more in the for the whole time though.
Yeah, it's definitely alarming for sure. Definitely, something. It always has to be something like this that kind of brings the country together. Unfortunately, and I wasn't able. I was working, so I wasn't able to catch the game. I didn't know about it until I leave my phone in my car, and I come to my car and boom, all these notifications. And, I knew it was something bigger than what was going on. So I didn't even want to distract myself, trying to do that and drive, which, you really shouldn't anyway. And I was kind of tired. I work late nights. So I didn't really kind of get into it until Tuesday. But it's a tough thing to watch. I know a lot of people it hit, and the professionalism of ESPN, covering that game. They never wavered, and they did it well.
Right, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Scott Van Pelt, former Steeler Ryan Clark. I mean, it's funny. I was just getting in to watch the game. I didn't know what happened. And I flipped it on there, and they were talking about. And I said, "Whoa, why the game still ain't on?" And then they were talking about the kid collapsed on the field like that, and he was rushed to the hospital in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Whoa, this was very frightening," because it sounds like the Bills players were just balling like kids bowling. It was not one dry eye on neither side of the sidelines or in the house. Not one dry. It was just, man, this was just a frightening thing. It just put me back in perspective when that was probably the best thing. I stayed not being on there on the football field. I mean, I could play tight end pretty well, but I caught some hands. My speed isn't that bad, but it was not the risk because we wearing all that equipment but it's a gladiator sport. That's why I love watching the game on football, just watching on TV or just calling the game, and doing the yards and, all that. Cause it's too much on the body. Baseball, if you're good enough, you could play for at least 10, 15, maybe 20 years till you're about at least 40. For football, you average only probably about 2 or 3 years at best. If you're lucky, 5 to 8. If you can manage to get to that 10th year, you're guaranteed a pension. I mean, you're going to be set. You're pretty much financially set for life when you get that pension, that $30,000 pension, and that's good.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to go into that, though. Because you have to be well conditioned, and it's just like that's just it's. But I have to also commend the first response team for the Cincinnati department, the Cincinnati's first responders. They were the real MVPs of getting him on that CPR, getting him to the hospital to get him taken care of. There's been some progress. I've been heard the last few hours, and they're taking it day by day. Just we got to keep the thoughts and prayers with his family, his well-being, because when that happened, football is totally secondary, and the wins and the records and playoff position right now, it's just not the appropriate time at this time, because the main thing is to get him back to where he can be able to live that normal life, though. So, my hearts go out on behalf of Niners Radio, the 49ers organization, and all our 49er chapters, all our fan chapters, 408 Empire, all that we send our prayers out to the Bills Mafia, because that's just they're a great city.
Yes, they are.
I mean, and yeah. But let's get to the Niners, the good side now.
All right, go for it, man.
Okay, what are your thoughts about the Niners going up to this point? They coming off a big win against the Raiders last week. They 37-34 on New Year's Day in overtime. They they've won 9 in a row. I believe this is only the third or fourth time they've won. I mean, a win on Sunday makes it 10 in a row. They will match their longest winning streak since 1997. And they controlled a win over the Cardinals on Sunday. They get the number 2 seed because of the Bear Conference record over Minnesota. And then they'll play. And then after that, they will. And then after that, they're guaranteed at least 2, one for the division title, at least possibly 2 playoff games through the divisional playoff, and then if they survive those 2 rounds, they go to the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles, who will be the number 1 seed with a win over the New York Giants in Philadelphia. However, if the Eagles lose to the Giants on Sunday, coupled with one Niners win, the Niners will get the number 1 seed, and if Dallas beats Washington, they go from the number 5 seed to the number 2 seed, because then they will have the tiebreaker advantage over the Vikings. So as well.
Yeah, it's still a big game. If you're 49ers faithful, because you have a lot to fight for. And the NFL is really brilliant the way they do these last couple of weeks. A lot of these games that mean a lot are on at the same time. So it's like you don't know, what the fate of your playoffs are until you're done. And the other team that matters, that affects it a little bit, is playing the same time. So you don't know all these things, and then some of the games that are on a little bit later, depending on how some of the earlier games go in the same conference, it's like, all right, you either know if you have a chance or not, if you're eliminated or not. But it's just really brilliant. So yeah, they have a lot to go, a lot to fight for, like you said. And the thing that kind of captivates me a little bit is what a job, they have done. Kyle Shanahan and his squad has done with someone like Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. I think that's, incredible. All 32 teams, including the 49ers, passed up on him all the way until the end. And then finally the 49ers like, you know what, we'll take this guy. And they made it work. They've done great with him. So, you got to give them credit for seeing something in him. And Cliff had talked about him a little bit, just what he saw in his junior year. He said, man, this kid is playing just as good as anybody. He had faltered a little bit that senior year, but he knew that he was going to be something special. And unfortunately, if you're, like I said, Cardinals fan, you didn't pick it up on it either. 49ers did, and they're playing well. So that'll throw some wrinkle into some things in the off season. But yeah, this 49ers team, they've come a long way, and nowhere near it last season, but they're at the pinnacle now.
Well, he's got everything's going to be measured in the playoffs. They come in there with a 9-game winning streak.
Yep.
They end up, and that they've in their history they've had, I believe, in three different, they've ended up having a winning streak of. I'm trying to add this up, just 84, and then. Of 9 games or more. I think this is the third or fourth time that has ever happened. They had a 9-game winning streak to finish off the '84 season when they went 15-1 on their way to their
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl 16 win over the Miami Dolphins, and then after that they ended up having they started the 1990 season. They were the two-time defending Super Bowl champions. Started 10-0 to start the season. That is still an all-time record to start a season. 1990, 94, their Super Bowl season, they won 10 in a row. Then after that, they had three, and then the fourth different time, there was 84, 90, 84, 90, and then it was 94, 97. They won 11. The all-time winning streak is 11 in a row. Is the all-time 49er franchise. So this is the fifth time they have had a 9-game winning streak. So if they a win on Sunday, it will tie them. It will mark the third time in the season the Niners will have a winning streak of at least 10-game winning streak for the third time in franchise history. It would
Yeah.
match their longest. The 9-game winning streak matches their longest streaks in a quarter since 1997. That was when the Niners won the NFC West with Steve Mariucci's first year as head coach back a quarter century ago around this time.
Yeah, it's impressive what, year in and year out, what the 49ers are able to do. There's some years he's like, you want to throw dirt on them, you feel like you can, and then like, nope, they come rising back up, and it's impressive. They got a great organization over there, and I tip my hat to them.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts if speculation the Broncos may be looking for Sean Payton as well. It's a lot of turnover, but I got to make it really quick. What's going to be the outlook with the NFC West moving forward down in 2023 and beyond?
Well, I expect a complete rebuild for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray out, so that's going to take some wins away. The Rams. Well, who knows what's going to happen there? I don't know.
Rams could be in trouble. The Rams could be in trouble. They're against the salary cap. They're going to have to do some big time overhauling because they're going to have to do some overhauling because of they bit the billet the two times they went to the Super Bowl with Sean McVay. They lost. They won it all last year. 4 years ago, they lost to the Patriots. In fact, they didn't even. They're only the third NFL. They're only the second NFL team ever in the Super Bowl era ever did not score a single touchdown, and and that's actually did not score, or actually the fourth to be exact, because the 2000 Ravens did not allow a touchdown. The only touchdown allowed in that game by the Ravens was a kickoff return. Other than that, they would have been the first team to pitch a shutout in the Super Bowl. So the Ravens defense, and then you have to, and then yeah. So pretty much they had. I mean, a lot of just a lot of just a lot of changeover every year. And then for the Seahawks, I don't think they're not going to be in a bad situation. They're going to get Denver's first round pick at the season ended today. They'll be picking at number 3 or number 4.
I'm not entirely sure. Probably somewhere in there. I know the Cardinals are guaranteed at least a top 5 pick for sure. which that helps them. They're not, they're not in need of quarterbacks. So quarterback needy teams are going to want to, trade up and take their pick. So that could help them.
If the Bears lose, and if the Bears lose on Sunday, they lose, and I think if Houston wins, then the Bears would be the number 1 pick. And I think Chicago drops them, and the Broncos would be either 2 or 3, but Seattle gets the Broncos pick. So if the Broncos slated at the second worst record, at worst, the Seahawks will get. They'll get the Broncos number 2 pick, meaning they're going. I mean, for the Broncos, your thought, because you're from Wyoming, right? Or
Montana, but yeah.
So you're in that area where there's a lot of Bronco fans. The Broncos the Broncos are in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
I mean,
they are.
They 7 straight losing seasons. 7 straight non-playoff campaigns since winning it all back in Super Bowl 50, which was hosted in the Bay Area, and since Peyton Manning's retirement, 7 straight years of without the playoffs. This is going to be the 6th consecutive year that they will finish under 500. And a loss Sunday to the Chargers, the surging LA Chargers, who have been playing some of their best football. This will be their worst. The Broncos could be on their way to suffering through their worst season ever. With they coming in there had lost, I believe, 7 in a row and 11 out of 13.
Yeah, back to your picks thing. As of right now, like say the season ended right now, it'd be Texans 1, Cardinals tied for 2 or 3 because Texans are 2 and 13, Bears are 3 and 13.
I got that one tie, yeah.
Yep, and then Broncos are 4 and 12, same as the Cardinals. They're also 4 and 12.
Seahawks got their draft picks though for that though.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell. But you know what's interesting as far as the NFC West, since you were asking me about it earlier, is all 4 teams have a question at quarterback, at least for a part of the season. You don't know, Rams, what do they want to do with Baker Mayfield? Seahawks, do they like Geno Smith? 49ers, what do they like Brock Purdy? Or are they going to go with the young buck and Trey? They all 4 teams, interestingly enough, still have quarterback conversation to go into next season.
Yep, and then and then I think right now I have to say you got to stick with the hot hand with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, if you're the 49ers, you like what you've seen enough, so he's at least going to get a shot to compete to be a starter, but you don't know. You still want to see what's going to happen with Trey Lance as a pick. I don't know what you want to do. Like I said, still questions. I thought that was very interesting. It hit me when as soon as you asked me, I'm like, all four teams have questions at quarterback, at least permanently or temporarily.
Yep. And then finally, what's the outlook for this Sunday's game? Do you like to predict a score?
I don't have a score. Cardinals less than 20 points scoring. 49ers win by at least a score or 2. I can't give a score, but I don't think the Cardinals are going to score more than 20. So I can guarantee that. So another loss, and you expect Cliff to be fired on Monday. I kind of hope that he gets fired at the end of the game. I don't want to sound like I'm lobbying for him to get fired, but the opportunity, like I said, they cannot pass on this opportunity to go after someone like Sean Payton. If they do, they'll be back in the dumpster fire year after year after year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I would not be surprised if the Niners this could be ugly and early, and possibility Deebo Samuel could come back, and Elijah Mitchell both coming back. I would not be surprised. It could be like a range of 24 or 27-0, 27-3 ish, right around there. I think,
Yeah,
and then
possible.
Buda Baker's not going to play. He's out for the rest of the year.
Yep,
DeAndre Hopkins is
out.
out. So I think the Cardinals are just really they're just packing the
Yep.
Mayflower truck or the Riders or the Hertz rental car trucks when they get back to Arizona and head on home for the off season because there's a lot of uncertainty with the Cardinals.
Sure,
The
absolutely.
Rams going to have a lot of uncertainty with them as Matthew Stafford, who've had multiple concussions,
Yep.
and then. But I think Seattle is not going to be in a bad situation because they got a chance to get into the playoffs with a win. I think Green Bay or Detroit, one of them have to lose for Green Bay because the Niners are way more far superior team this year over the Seahawks,
Yeah.
and it's not even
Yep.
close. And then those Seahawks teams in the past when Russell Wilson was there.
Yep. There's a lot going on. That's for sure. A lot going on. It's always fun at the end of the season. That's for sure.
Yep. So Murph, we'll get ready to wrap it up. Where can people see your content?
As always, you can, if you want to just talk with me, bigskysportstalk@gmail.com. You can email me there. You can find me posting things on Facebook and Instagram at Big Sky Sports Talk. As far as listening to the show, I'm on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music. I'm everywhere.
Yep, and
Everywhere you are.
Yeah, keep building that, man. And you get some little extra revenue you can put in. You keep on building that equipment, just like I'm trying to do. But hey, thank you for coming on. I know it's been a rough year for the Cardinals. I mean, the people down in the desert. I mean, the only good thing comes out of this is the Super Bowl exactly from about a little more than a month from now. Will be coming down there, and the Niners, the way they keep playing, could be making that trek down to the desert for Super Bowl 57 in February. So, Murph, thank you for being on, and you and your family wish all of you a very happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll talk to you again soon. Hopefully, I'm doing baseball season for my other platform. We'll talk some National League West baseball during the season.
Absolutely, let's do it.
I'm definitely going to probably be down there for spring training in February, and we'll be in March, and then maybe making the trek down there for the Super Bowl doing 49ers coverage for Niners Radio. Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right, so that is Dave Murphy from Murphy Sports. Thank you for being on our podcast. Just a reminder, coming up, the 49ers will take on the Arizona Cardinals in the regular season finale this Sunday at Levi Stadium. The kickoff time will be at 1:25 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I'm looking on my monitor. That's going to be both CBS and Fox will have doubleheader weekends, a doubleheader weekend, and the Niners will take on the Cardinals. That will be on Fox, and the game, Chris Myers and Robert Smith with the call. That will be the late game. The Rams will be taking on the Seattle Seahawks. That's an important game for the Seahawks. They need to win and hope. I think Green Bay loses, or Detroit loses. The Cowboys will take on the Guardians or the Commanders. Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson will be in the nation's capital. A Dallas win and an Eagles loss will give the Cowboys the NFC West or the NFC East, and for the Niners, a win over the Cardinals in a Cowboy loss. I mean, in a Eagles loss would give them the number one seed, home field throughout the playoffs, and a first round bye. Brian Duvall, the Giants head coach, said he's going to rest some of those starters for the regular season finale because the Giants will be the number 6 seed. It will not, no matter, regardless of their outcome, their playoff position will not change. So thank you for watching this edition of 49ers Talk Behind the Enemy Lines on Niners Radio, latest news on 49ers news and so much more. Go to 49ers.com. You can check me out also on youtube.com/Niners Radio 49. You can catch me also on facebook.com/Niners Radio 49. My email address is Niners Radio 49@gmail.com. And any comments on this, you're very welcome to add. We like to add your comments, help build this platform. For now, I'm Brian Professor B. Davis. Thank you for watching 49ers on Niners Radio. And Niners Radio's association with the Satellite Digital Media News Network. 49ers football, faithful to the Bay.